show today, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream. Now that I remember to hit go live on the stream, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 961. Plenty of stuff to get to today. A lot of thoughts, not only on my mind, I think, but also Austin's when it comes to Major League Baseball. You guys know that Austin and I are big baseball guys, but there's a lot of stuff to get to because it's now getting not to crunch time necessarily, but if you were listening to The Drive this morning, I brought up Scott Boras, and who's one of the best agents in all of baseball, in all of sports. I mean, in every single sport. Handles, I believe that the number is like 6 of the 9 largest contracts in Major League Baseball. He makes annually, according to Forbes in 2023, made a little over $191 million last year in salary, just in commissions. Or that was what he made over the calendar year. It was incredible because from January 1st of 2022 to March 19th, when Nick Castellanos signed with the Phillies, he had made $121 million in commissions in less than 3 full months. Just absolutely astronomical numbers. However, this year is really fascinating because there are 6 of Scott Boras's clients still out there that have yet to sign anywhere. But also, there's 4 big ones. And Austin, remind me that it's Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger,
Jordan Montgomery.
Those are the 4 biggest ones that have yet to be signed. Spring training starts in less than a week.
Yeah.
In less than a week, in like 4 days. I believe it starts on Friday.
The 23rd is the first Royals game. At least be Friday, yeah.
Which would be Friday. So it's coming down to crunch time. Now, these guys are going to end up playing baseball again. It's not like they're going to be pushed out of the league. But it was also fascinating because there was a general manager for the San Francisco Giants who have been talked about as one of the players or potential landing spots for these guys. Farhan Zaidi said this, quote, "It's a little bit more disruptive to add at this point, and anybody who is a free agent, we've theoretically had 3.5 months to figure out a deal, and if it hasn't happened yet, at some point organizationally, you just need to turn the page and focus on the players you have in-house." A really telling quote, because there's been year after year, Scott Boras has seemingly been able to pull things out of a hat and just made it happen. But it's looking less and less likely that all 6 of his clients that are yet to be signed, that'll happen for all 6 of them. Maybe it will. Maybe guys like Cody Bellinger, who was one of the more improved players of all in all of baseball last year, something crazy will happen for him. We saw it last week with the Baltimore Orioles. They had some injuries to their rotation, which means, you know what? Maybe a franchise would be more inclined to overpay for a starting pitcher on the market like a Jordan Montgomery. So when you look at this, it's also hard because it's basically like a holdout. You have Scott Boras and his client holding out for a long-term, financially secure type of deal, but then also all the players, for example, the New York Yankees, who are in a big market, have a big luxury tax number. By the way, the luxury tax, it charges every dollar that the New York Yankees, for example, spend, charges 110% in luxury tax. So if the Yankees,
over the line.
Yes, over the line. So here's the thing. If the Yankees, for example, and I was listening to Ken Rosenthal's podcast from The Athletic, by the way, and he made the example of why the New York Yankees never want to do short-term deals. You look at, and short-term deals aren't all that popular nowadays in Major League Baseball with some of the best talent. Fernando Tatis really got it started with his long-term deal. You have Corey Seager, who signed a long-term deal with the Texas Rangers. Xander Bogaerts. You can go down the list. Shohei Ohtani this offseason. All of them are now turning into double-digit year type of deals. And for the New York Yankees, for example, let's say they sign Blake Snell to a 1-year, $40 million contract. Well, by the time the luxury tax kicks in, being charged at 110% per dollar, you're paying double that contract. And so the Yankees, it doesn't make sense financially to take a risk on maybe a guy that's towards the back end of his career And whether that's Blake Snell, maybe not back end, but definitely not in his prime like he was with the Rays.
Yeah.
And as he was pitching in the World Series. But in the back, towards the backside of his career, to go, hey, you know what? We'll take a flyer on you 1 year. We'll pay you what you want, and end up paying him when it's all said and done over $80 million.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense for like a Blake Snell to sign that. Even a Jordan Montgomery, right? These are guys that this is their last chance at a big contract. Blake Snell's 31.
Yeah.
If he takes a 1 year deal now, he has to go through this process again at 32. That's just another year that he could have gotten before. So I understand from the player perspective where they want the security in years. I can understand the team perspective where, yeah, Blake Snell's probably tail end of his prime, but he's got, I would guess, especially since his workload hasn't been all that heavy, right? 180 innings last year. One of the higher numbers in his career, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was just 2/3 of an inning off of his previous career high that he set back in 2018, the last time he won the Cy Young. Blake Snell's got a few, I would think, 150 inning seasons left in him.
Yeah.
Probably 30 starts to 5 innings or so for a few years. Blake Snell's really good. I can understand why, he would be looking for that, even just a 4-year deal, right? I don't think that's overkill. You see your Verlanders, your Scherzers to some degree, kind of taking the NFL quarterback route where they're pitching more and more effectively into their mid-30s and upper 30s than, we've ever seen in baseball history before. So I think there's less risk now, but if you look at a guy like a Blake Snell, he probably wants top-tier money as well, not just the security in years. And that's usually the trade-off, right? If you see a guy get a lot more years, they probably knock down for the team just how big that number of salary is. On the flip side, I'm shocked that a guy like Cody Bellinger hasn't been signed yet. Floored by that one. Even Matt Chapman, who had a bit of an offensive resurgence last year. I don't think he's going to be as good this year as he was last year, but that's still a not just gold, but a platinum glove winner in Matt Chapman. Like, he's Manny Machado, Nolan Arenado level defense with a league average, maybe tick below bat. He's better than a bench player. He's probably a platoon guy for these next few years. But a guy like Bellinger is still young enough that some team should be willing to give him, 3 years, $60 million and feel pretty good about it.
Well, and most importantly, look at last year. So this is what's so fascinating, I think, just with the way just sports professional contracts work in general, right? Because this can be the case in any sport, where you have a guy like Cody Bellinger last year sign a short-term deal. He signs a 1-year, $21 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. This was after he had a really disappointing end to his Dodgers career. His time in LA, he was not that great offensively. He was fine defensively, but not that great offensively. And that was after he was an MVP caliber type of player.
But he won the MVP.
He won the MVP, yes. And while still young, also Cody Bellinger. So at that time, you're thinking, okay, and everybody knew it, take an opportunity, go to somewhere like Chicago where you can be the main piece. And he go to Chicago, rejuvenate your career. And he did. Yeah. He was one of the best players in all of baseball last year on a 1-year, $20 million deal or somewhere around that. So then now, if you're Scott Boras, you were telling him, I'm sure 2 years ago, hey, let's take a short-term deal, revalue yourself on the free agent market by how you play this season, and then we can talk about a longer-term deal in 2 seasons, which would be present day. That's not happening.
It's not. And the reason that players take those 1-year deals is they call it either a pillow contract, or I've heard it referred to as a trampoline contract as well, right? The pillow is it's a soft landing. Hey, I just got to go play somewhere. Right? If I have to take a 1-year deal, I will. And, because Cody Bellinger really had 3 down years in a row, right? He had a 112 OPS plus in 2020 in the shortened season. He was okay, not nearly as good as he was the year before when he won MVP. Had a 44 and an 81 OPS plus.
Yikes.
For reference, 100 is league average. Every point you are above, you're that percent better. So he was 56% worse than league average, then 19% worse than league average the previous 2 years. Last year, he bounces back to a 133 OPS plus. That's huge. I mean, the power came back with 26 home runs, good situational hitter with the sac flies, didn't strike out an overwhelming amount, especially compared to his walks, which is huge. So he can say, I regained my value. I did everything I was asked to do, probably more. I'm sure you'd say as a Cubs fan. So the hope then is that if a player takes those steps to get better, to improve, he's then rewarded, which is where the trampoline comes into effect, right? Where they hit the bottom, they need something to springboard, and they spring, and then they get the money that they're deserved. It's back up top. The problem is baseball economics are moving away from that, which is a problem. So now it's more like jumping in a river, jumping in the ocean, where you're not going to bounce back. All you can hope to do is tread water.
Yeah. Pretty
much stay right there. And that's where I think Cody Bellinger ends up in the 3 for 63, 3 for 60 sort of range. And he's only going to be 28 years old this year. Like, this is a guy that last year was technically the first year of his athletic prime. If you view it as ages 27 to 31 as your athletic prime, he's just entering it. And he's already won an MVP. People should be lining up around the block to sign this guy, and they're not.
Well, and you also have, speaking with the Cubs specifically, right? Because I know there are a lot of Cubs fans listening, and in the listening area here, when you look at the Chicago Cubs, they're a team that, or an organization also, has a nice farm system right now. They have the best statistically, and according to MLB.com and multiple rankings and outlets, similar to recruiting services, outlets, they have the best farm system in the NL Central, which is their division, right? They go and they fire David Ross just a couple of weeks after they said, hey, you know what? We're good. We're going to keep David Ross. Quietly and under the table, after the Brewers, an in-division rival, doesn't want to pay Craig Counsell, the Cubs say, you know what? Let's go ahead. We're gonna offer Craig Counsell $8 million a year. I pay him the highest anybody in Major League Baseball has ever paid a manager. And we're going to bring him in to manage the Chicago Cubs. 5 years, $80 million for a manager that's consistently beaten you and was a key in maybe constructing a roster also to, once again, go against you guys, right? With the Milwaukee Brewers. Well, so you bring Craig Counsell in, and Cubs fans are sitting there going, all right, it's going to be, they're buyers. They made the playoffs last year. Here we go. We're ready to go. You're in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes. I still, to this day, firmly believe that the Cubs were in the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes until the number got ridiculous. And I remember, Austin, I think you and I actually ended up doing the show together when the Ohtani news broke. Yeah. And I sat here, and I'll say it again because I truly believe it, and I'm ecstatic because an organization like the Cubs, and you know this as the Royals as well, the mid-market, small market teams, those are, I mean, you are investing so much into one guy when you're talking about over $300 million. And that wasn't even the case with Shohei. It was more than that.
Double half.
At three, I think the number that I said was like, and the Cubs offered at one point was like 375. And I thought, all right, you know what? Yeah, if you're going to get him for 10, 12 years, go ahead, right? At least you're a main player. Don't forget the trickery and the sorcery that happened with Shohei's agent and the Toronto stuff, and that there was rumors that he was on a flight to Toronto. That was never true. Shohei was at his crib chilling, and the Dodgers freaked out, panicked, and paid him $100 million more than they ever needed to.
And his agent was like, quick, sign before I take it back. Sign it now. Shohei, come on,
sign it. So I'm sitting there going, you know what? At that point, 10 years, $700 million, don't ever pay that for a player unless you're the Dodgers or the Yankees, where you can afford
maybe the
that.
Mets and Cohen,
maybe
something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But now the Cubs are sitting here, and you have the GMs talking about, yeah, you know what? We like Christopher Morel at third base. So that takes Chapman off of their table. They like Pete Crow Armstrong in the outfield. So that makes less of a need for Cody Bellinger to return. And they were a playoff team last year with a pretty decent farm system in year one of a manager. The expectation isn't World Series right now for the Chicago Cubs. It's not like you're in year 4 of Joe Madden, where it's like, okay, we need to hit. We need to strike gold. That's not the case for a team like the Cubs. And so you're sitting there going, maybe we can just hold off, and we're in the stare down up until the last moment, until spring training starts. And we're going to see if Scott Boras and his client ever flinch.
That's definitely one way to look at it. There are so many ways to go about this, right? You have your big market, medium market, and small market
Exactly.
teams. The big market teams you just talked about. The small market teams will never make those deals. The medium market ones will go back and forth for the right player. They'll make those deals. But specifically with the Cody Bellinger example here, that's the one I want to focus on. And Blake Snell, we'll throw him into this conversation, maybe Montgomery. But when you look at these top tier free agents, Nick, what do you think they're going to sign for? Do they get 30 mil a year, or do you think they're in like the 25 range? Just ballpark, if you had to guess, gut feeling.
I think a guy like Belly could get 30.
Okay, so 30 million a year for Cody Bellinger. If you take Michael Wacha's salary plus Seth Lugo's salary for this year for the Kansas City Royals, $31 million.
Exactly.
Are they better having signed those two pitchers, or would they be better if they signed Cody Bellinger?
Yeah.
Clearly, they have $30 million to throw around. They just did it.
Yeah.
But they chose to go with two guys who are probably 3 and 4 starters at the major league level that'll be the Royals 2 and 3 most likely. And that's fine. But then you look at even, add the position players on top of that. Hunter Renfroe getting $6.5 million this year. Okay. That you're basically a quarter of the way there. Adam Frazier, 4.5. There's $11 million.
Yeah.
Garrett Hampson, $2 million. You're up to 13. And then you throw in the bullpen guys. Will Smith making $5 million per year. Chris Stratton making an average of 4 over the next 2. That's $20 million right there on top of the 31. If you told me the Royals had $51 million to splash around in free agency, like, I'm thrilled with what they did in the offseason. They added some interesting pieces.
Absolutely.
But if you could tell me that the Royals could sign, Cody Bellinger for $25 million a year and Blake Snell for $25 million a year for the next 3 or 4, I'm not so sure I don't like those deals better than everything the Royals brought in, right? I'm not mad. Like, I'm pretty happy with what the Royals did. But if you're telling me that Blake Snell and Cody Bellinger are still out there and the Royals jumped at these mid-tier guys instead of maybe going for the higher swings in the stars, kind of makes me wonder, wonder why they seemingly jumped the gun a little bit.
I think a great explanation of this, and it's part of baseball and I guess professional sports. I think it's easy to look at in baseball specifically, but in all professional sports, it's truly fascinating if you have time to really learn on how rosters are constructed, right? Because construction of a roster is so imperative to a GM's legacy. And also, I mean, let's be real, to whether or not they keep their job, whether how they draft, how they approach free agency, how they sign guys, their relationships with players, all that plays such a crucial and integral part in not only their legacy, but, obviously the success of the organization or team. And you mentioned the Royals in those regards, right? With taking multiple players that might not be the top tier talent, but figure out a way to still win games. It's also assessing the division you're in, right? And the Royals, in their case, are in a very weak, and similar to the Cubs, a very weak division. The Royals in the AL Central, the Cubs in the NL Central. Very weak divisions to where you don't need to go out and have an $800 million payroll for a season and to win games, right? It's not an arms race. It is there's a different type of baseball that the Cubs or the Royals are going to play this year compared to what the Yankees are trying to do, or the Dodgers, as we saw with Shohei Ohtani. A perfect example of big market and roster construction that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, the San Diego Padres. Look at the San Diego Padres. So they go out, right, and they get Juan Soto, and they pay a lot of money for Juan Soto. That's great. He's extremely young. I think he's still only like 22 years old. Juan Soto is, if he's even that old. So they go out, get Juan Soto.
Soto is 25.
25. Maybe he was 22.
So he'll be a free agent at age 26, which is insane.
So Juan Soto out there, that's right. He got into the league at an extremely young age, like 19. Nonetheless, Juan Soto goes out. They go and he gets signed by the Padres at the end of the day. The most kind of head scratching move of it's like, let's just try to bring in all these top tier talent and just try to see if they can mesh together, if they can gel. When the Padres went out and signed Xander Bogaerts last year, Xander Bogaerts, former Red Sox shortstop, he's also one of these guys where it's like, all right, you don't think that when he signs an 11-year deal worth $280 million with the Padres, that he's going to stay at shortstop his entire career. That's just not the way it works. I mean, look at Hanley Ramirez, look at Manny Machado, other guys like that. They don't stay.
Seager's moving off short pretty soon.
Seager's moving off of short. They just don't stay in their positions, right? Because you usually have guys that are maybe better defensively. They move to DH, they move to first base, whatever the case may be. So Xander Bogaerts, it was just announced last week, he's moving over to second base. Well, so not that Xander is happy about moving over to second base. They're stuck in this, where do we put Xander? Because Kim is probably a better shortstop.
Much better defensively.
And he, I always mess up. I butcher his name. It's like Haseong.
Yeah,
Ha-Sung Kim is a better shortstop overall. So he takes Xander Bogaerts' place. I also think Jake Cronenworth is probably the better second baseman over Xander Bogaerts. You're not moving Xander to third base because Manny Machado already moved from short to third, right? And then at first base, you don't want to move Xander. He doesn't need to be over there.
Oh, and you already moved one of your shortstops out to right field.
Yes, and Fernando Tatis that you signed to a long-term deal. 14 years, $340 million, when he was young, and he's had PED problems. He's had substance abuse problems. There's been suspensions with Fernando. There's also been injuries with Fernando Tatis Jr. And so then you go out Juan Soto, and they had Blake Snell at a time. And like, so they've tried, they had Josh Hader as well for a time at the trade deadline. 0 World Series. Not a single World Championship has been won by the Padres. And this is where the roster construction comes into play. And I think it's a great example, is because if you're the Padres here, you're sitting there with Xander Bogaerts saying, all right, we still have you for 10 years. You're set to make $25 million this year. That's going to go up, I'm sure, incrementally every single season. And we don't really know where to put you. And so you're looking at that guy going, all right. And it's no personal or hard feelings here. It's just, we could have the money that we're invested in you and go and get somebody we actually need. So then you have the trade conversations. Well, nobody wants to pick up the contract. So then the Padres, similar to the Rockies with Arenado, or similar to just any team that trades a star at the deadline, says, okay, you know what? This is a contract done, but we're still going to be held on for the contract. We'll pay it for Arenado to go to St. Louis. The Rockies paid, they basically continued to pay Arenado's contract for him to play in St. Louis, right? That's where the Padres are at. So at a moment when it all started and they signed Fernando Tatis Jr. to the long-term deal, who is their future, they looked like, all right, in the next 5, 6, 7 years, we expect a world championship. But here you are a couple years later, and you feel just as far away from that as you were, once again, 5, 6 years ago.
I have an uncle who's a Dodgers fan, so I've enjoyed their success for his sake. I respect what the Padres have done in going for it, right? They made those big trades. What they did when Preller first got there was build up their farm system. They dealt from positions of strength. Now, Preller's really active. Like every deadline for the last 4 or 5 years, they've gone for it. It hasn't worked out. But I appreciate that they're continually willing to step up to the plate and make those, moves to be aggressive, to try to win. I kind of want to see them rewarded for it. Like, I have no allegiance to the Padres. There's nothing there, but I think they're a model of what baseball should be, right? We talk about, the Cubs had their success when they tanked. The Orioles seem like they're on the come up. San Diego bottomed out for a year or two, but they weren't atrociously, abysmally bad like those early Astros teams where the Orioles were. They rebuilt their farm system with savvy drafting. They made big trades for superstars. Like, who wouldn't want to play in San Diego? So that's why I'm a little bummed for them that it hasn't worked out to the degree I think it should have, given the talent they've acquired.
Well, and it's incredible because you look at just, once again, so much depends on where you're at in your division and things like that. The Padres also went through a giant rebrand. Don't forget, they completely swapped colors. They redid their logo. The Petco Park is still a really cool ballpark. And so they just hosted an all-star game a couple of years ago. Like, things like that are important for organizations, but yet it feels like a team like the Diamondbacks has passed them in the NL West. It feels like the Giants are a team that once again could be even, if not a little bit above or ahead of the San Diego Padres. And it all goes back to kind of roster construction. And they've just tried to throw some stars together. They traded, also, don't forget, I can't remember if they dealt or if they just allowed him to kind of move on. Will Myers. I believe Will Myers is gone from San Diego.
No, he's still there.
They traded. Okay, well then I apologize. Scratch that. I shouldn't have said that.
Oh wait, yeah, the Reds just signed him. That's right.
Okay,
Good call.
Okay,
good call.
Thank you. Okay,
yeah, good call.
So nonetheless,
they didn't trade him. He just
he signed with the Reds. So Will Myers is no longer there. There was a time where Will Myers was the best prospect or the most promising prospect in the Padres organization.
After he was the most promising prospect in the Royals organization.
There you go. And he ends up then, once it's done, when it's all said and done, moves on from San Diego. And you buy stock in Fernando Tatis. And it's not working out as well because he's got his own off-the-field issues. Then you sign Xander Bogaerts. You sign Manny Machado. You bring in Juan Soto. And there's also more Josh Hader, Blake Snell. Like, there's more names to it. And you're just trying to throw something against the wall, hoping it sticks. And they don't end up meshing or gelling well together.
And maybe part of that, too, is that they tried to be the Dodgers, right? Except the Dodgers are one of the best in baseball at drafting, at identifying what it is their guys do well and fitting a team together.
Yeah.
Where I think San Diego might have looked in from the outside and said, throw players at the wall, throw money at the wall. It's going to work out eventually. Yeah. To their credit, they were abysmal in one-run games last year and were much better than their record showed. Yeah. But your record's your record.
I also think that the Dodgers, to an extent, have done that, and same with the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
And has it necessarily worked out? It hasn't. It worked out finally for the Rangers last year, who signed Semien and Corey Seager. They also got good contribution from young guys like Josh Young and other guys, really guys starting pitching as well for the Rangers. But if you look like the Dodgers, right, it's you're going to sign all these guys, and it results in you losing the NLCS every year. Then Dave Roberts is on the hot seat. Then you go out, you sign Shohei Ohtani for basically 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's commendable what Shohei's doing with the deferred money, it's how does the organization operate that extra money? How do they use it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have also other organizations, for example, like Mike Trout, who says just the other day that he does not want to be traded. He's like, I feel like that's the easy way out of Anaheim.
Mike Trout is Dame Lillard.
Yeah, you feel so bad for Mike Trout, but now you don't, because he's been open about, I don't want to get traded. I understand the narrative out there. But Mike Trout says, quote, I've been pushing. And then he mentioned owner Art Moreno to sign impact free agents, but the Angels haven't, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees are signaling that they're still interested in Boris's left-handers, Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. But once again, you have the luxury tax issue that you don't want to play with. The Cubs talked about Christopher Morel switching over to third base instead of signing a free agent at third.
Do you see Nico's flip from spring training today?
I sure did. And then Bellinger, right? So you have all these teams that are open and honest and transparent about, we need pieces, but we don't want to pay what you're forcing us to pay. And so now it's going to be really interesting, because going back and tying this all into a bow from what we started talking about with Scott Boras, it's a stare down. It's a stare down, and who's going to flinch first? Now, if I had to pick one, Boras is on a little bit higher ground, simply because injuries are part of the game. Openings are going to be needed. They're going to need pieces to fill, some voids from injuries. Things like that are going to happen. So eventually somebody's going to sign Bellinger, Chapman, Snell, Montgomery, and the other two as well. It's just, when does it happen? Does it happen during spring training? Does it happen into the season a little bit? Are some of these guys even late season acquisitions? A guy like Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's in his mid-30s, I believe, is a guy that maybe you bring on halfway through the season, towards the back end of the season, and he helps out a World Series contender.
Because that's a guy that breaks down after like 80 innings.
Absolutely.
Is what it feels like.
Absolutely. And so you feel like maybe Boras and his clients are on a little bit higher ground. But once again, just the roster construction and championship windows, and also understanding that small market teams have to construct their roster and sign contract guys to smaller deals and smaller championship windows, maybe more so than big market teams that can go out and drop $700 million on one player, have them defer that money for 10 years from now. And then also, the Dodgers really haven't signed anybody ever since Shohei deferred that money simply to have the Dodgers go out and continue to bring in talent. They haven't done a whole lot. They haven't. And so it's a fascinating side of things as we're less than 4 days away from spring training starting.
I forgot they got James Paxton.
They did.
I'm not sold on that move. I get why they would do it, but I'm not sold on that.
Yep, there you go. How about this? We get a text in from the text line. So Nebraska basketball has the biggest basketball game of the season tomorrow, and for a half hour, we've talked about baseball. Come on, gents. I love baseball as much as y'all, but can we get some Nebraska love for a Nebraska radio channel? Hold on. So at the top of the show, mentioned, all right, we're going to preview Major League Baseball. And then in the second segment, we're going to talk about Husker basketball. So it's time to take a break. We were going to already, Nebraska, Indiana. But guess what? Also, we have all day tomorrow to talk about it too.
Because we have the game's all tomorrow on the block.
So let's talk about it. We'll talk Huskers and Hoosiers when we return. Good conversation on baseball, though. No disrespect, no hard feelings. Also, unnamed texture. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But I promise, I understand that that folks want to listen to Nebraska, but also baseball season right around the corner. And I feel like this was somewhat educational too.
It was fun
because I don't
Baseball's
think
fun.
I don't think a lot of and this is completely okay without the in-depth, like, all right, how are these constructed? Who's the GM? Things like that matter the most.
Mm-hmm.
And just people might not realize that. And so we're also here to educate, also in addition to talking strictly about Nebraska sports. There's more to this for sure. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll preview Huskers and Hoosiers as tip-off tomorrow night on the Big Ten Network. There's also a big college basketball game tonight just up the road. Number 1 UConn is traveling to Creighton. I know we don't want to talk about it, but it's a big one. Let's talk about it all coming up next on the Happy Hour.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What a day. I could sure use an afternoon pick-me-up. Hold up. The new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside? Oh, yeah. This is a game changer.
Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better.
Houses? They're expensive. And once you buy one, you're kind of stuck with it for a while. You need to make sure you get your best house for the best price. You need Ben Bleicher and his team of pros at Professional Realty Group. They'll take the time to figure out what's important for you in your dream home, and they have the expertise to find the hidden issues that could surprise you after the sale. That's professional knowledge, proactive service. We call that potential. Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's home service ambassador. Find more online at prg-ne.com.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
Garage doors can be expensive. Are you keeping yours in the best condition possible? This is Cameron Hall with Doors Plus. Doors Plus is a locally owned business that prides itself on the fast, reliable, and friendly service. Doors Plus offers flexible scheduling so you can book an appointment that fits your busy day. My team and I will come out to your property, both commercial and residential, and provide you with the necessary information you need to make sure your garage door is in working and smooth condition. Give Doors Plus a call today at 402-590-5800 to book an appointment and learn more about our preventative maintenance plans. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
How do people feel about getting Big Fitness Energy at Planet Fitness for $1 down and $10 a month? They feel as thrilled as a kid the first summer they're tall enough to ride the roller coaster! That's right. When you join Planet Fitness right now, you'll get access to tons of equipment and free fitness training in a clean and spacious club. Don't wait. Join the judgment-free zone today for that all-day energy. Download the free Planet Fitness app and join today for $1 down, $10 a month.
Deal ends soon.
See Home Club for details.
Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits is now open in Lincoln. Shop our expansive collection of wine, beers, spirits, and cigars at 5040 North 27th Street. From top-shelf liquor to crowd-favorite beer, Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits has a beverage for every taste and every budget. Plus, join our loyalty program to earn rewards and save on future purchases. Shop Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits at 5040 North 27th Street in Lincoln. That's 5040 North 27th Street.
Empower a life today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Change is only a conversation away when you choose to share your wisdom, time, and heart with a young mind. Together, we can craft a brighter future, one child at a time. Ignite a spark of hope and be someone's guiding light. Find out more about becoming a mentor by visiting teammates.org. Become a beacon of change by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today. Get rid of pesky critters once and for all with Bats to Rats. Their expert team is here to help you reclaim your home. No more sleepless nights caused by crawling critters or flapping wings. Bats to Rats ensures a safe environment for every family member. Check the website at batstoRats.com for amazing offers. And if you mention this ad, you'll receive $10 off your initial inspection cost. Call Bats to Rats today at 402-781-8691. That's 402-781-8691. Bats to Rats.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
We're speaking to the Husker baseball assistant, Lance Harvell.
Seemed like there was a pretty heavy focus on the JUCO ranks this offseason. What went into the decision behind that approach?
There's something about junior college baseball. You know, if you've been through it, you know that life, what it's about. You number one, you gotta have passion to play baseball. You gotta grind. Those guys are tough. They're playing double headers, every time out. So you know kind of what you're getting.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep your clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex at West O Street. Online at doubleeagle.golf.
Old School with DP and J.
Do you think it's too early to talk about Patrick Mahomes as the greatest of all time? To be honest with you, I think he might be on ahead of the pace. It was definitely on pace, maybe ahead of the pace. I think right now everything that he does is going to get overblown, and I think people so quickly forgot the 20-year run of the Patriots. Not 5-6 years, 20-year run of Tom Brady and the Patriots.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did Caesar live here?
No.
I didn't think so.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into the Happy Hour 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert, Austin Orman with you as Rico's out for the week. Good stuff on baseball. If you missed any of the conversation, luxury tax, roster construction, championship windows. You can check it out on the podcast page in a little bit here, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify. I don't know any of the other ones.
Apple.
I just do Spotify. That's
Stitcher.
Okay. There you go. Red Circle.
I think
Red
Red Circle is
just
just
like
where
a
we
platform?
upload it to. I think that's just the uploading platform.
How bad is that? 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line. Appreciate you guys the entire show today, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 961. Okay, now Nebraska basketball tomorrow night, big one, as they get ready for the Indiana Hoosiers today. I will also say right off the bat, Eli Rice is a guy, and Austin, I know I didn't tell you I was going in this direction, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
Go for it.
But Eli Rice is a guy right now that I think Nebraska, even though they've had some success, could benefit from having, right? This is a player in Eli Rice that he's a true freshman, yes, but we saw him start to get more comfortable and acclimated to the college game prior to his ankle injury. And Eli ends up, I mean, he's still missing time right now, but this is one like maybe against, I'm trying to think of a game where maybe they didn't rebound as well. Illinois, you probably would
Pick a
have
road
liked to
game.
have. Yeah, Illinois is probably one that you would have liked to have Eli Rice. A little more athleticism, a little more height, just some better size.
Northwestern on the road, maybe.
Yeah, Northwestern on the road. He's shown that he's also a pretty nice shooter. It was an opportunity for maybe Eli to continue to gain some respect and some playing time. And also, we talk about this depth. Jerron Coleman's kind of out of the picture now. And Eli Rice, unfortunately, due to injury, is out as well.
When I think of Eli Rice, I think of an X factor. When I think of a glue guy, I think of Juwan Gary, who ties everything Nebraska wants to do together. Even Rink Mass to some degree, I would consider kind of a glue guy who pieces it together that makes it work.
Yeah.
What Eli Rice does as an X factor is provide something different. I think of that in the terms of his ability to take guys off the dribble and get to the rim as a wing, right? He can do that really well. He can turn the corner. I think of his length and athleticism on defense. Does he get caught ball watching, caught on screens? Yes, he does. But you can see that he can play passing lanes.
Yeah.
Knockdown shooter at
Lengthy
his size.
dude.
Lengthy, right? And it's just that spark. It's just a little something different than anyone else on Nebraska's roster can offer, right? You saw in the Iowa game on the road, they got out of the way and let Eli cook, right? Eli Rice was keeping that team afloat, such as it was, in the first half as soon as they got down. So it's necessary to have your glue guys, but as we get into the end of the regular season, as we get into tournament time and any postseason hopes that Nebraska has, you have to be able to kind of pull that wild card out of your sleeve.
Yeah.
I think of it too. I'll go back to some Duke basketball examples, right? The Zion Williams and RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish team. The X factor for that team was Alex O'Connell.
I mean,
was Joey Baker,
and also
who didn't get the run, who weren't allowed to provide the 3-point shooting that they needed. Because why? Because Mike Krzyzewski went with another glue guy in Jordan Goldwire, who hadn't developed into a shooter, who was another good defender, but the spacing was so cramped and that ultimately beat them. So what Nebraska needs to do over these last 5 regular season games, however long their stay at the Big Ten tournament is figure out who can step up when the first 4 guys on the court are being guarded. If you have Bryce Williams struggling, if you have Rink Mast in a bad matchup, Keisei Tominaga being top locked, and like Juwan Gary or CJ Wilcher on the floor, who's that 5th guy?
Yeah.
And what are those moments that they need to step up in? I trust Eli Rice's abilities on the offensive end as that 5th guy more than anyone on the bench, maybe outside of CJ Wilcher.
Well, another example of just bringing in somebody off the bench, and another team, non-Nebraska team, would be Kentucky from a while back when Devin Booker came off the bench, right? Like that was a team that had some nice pieces in their starting lineup, but then John Calipari was able to go to Devin Booker. And I believe, if I remember correctly, all 6 of their guys got drafted. And so you were able to bring Devin Booker off the bench, and he was able to be that spark at times for Kentucky. So I just think that's a piece of Nebraska here that maybe people are forgetting about. We're accustomed to seeing, Aaron Eulis being listed as out on the availability report. We've had guys go questionable and then back to out, and Blaze Cade is questionable, and you don't know his future. Don't forget about Eli Rice, because that's a guy that I think is going to play some big part in what Nebraska has going forward. So tomorrow, though, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow night's game, because Nebraska does travel to Assembly Hall to face off against the Indiana Hoosiers. Mike Woodson and his guys, they've had some bad losses at home. They've also had some nice wins on the road, even have the Hoosiers. And I think this is a game where Assembly Hall is a place where Nebraska hasn't played horrifically in years past. They've snuck a couple of them out over the last couple of years. But once again, I truly think that it's just like Nebraska as a program, and the fan bases can be included in this. It's like you're just waiting for the dam to break. Like Nebraska just needs to get the one on the road, get that narrative off of their back, figure out a way to win one on the road. Tomorrow's probably going to be somewhat of an ugly game because Indiana's not that great on paper. And so it's going to be one where Nebraska might just have to kind of grind it out. And I truly believe that once they do, they'll get that narrative off their back that they can't win on the road. And then we can really talk about the future, right? Because right now there's so much uncertainty about, all right, can Nebraska, if they lose every road game, do they still get into the NCAA tournament? Guess what? I think if you win one, maybe two, I think even just one, I think that does enough to get you in, expecting that you're going to win the rest of your games at home.
With 5 games,
maybe it's too early to say that.
No, here's the thing: you should. Nebraska should, right? And this is, if you look at the numbers, if you go to the paper, Nebraska's going to be favored in all 5 remaining games.
Absolutely.
Funny enough, I think the home games are trickier than the road games.
Oh,
which is weird. Minnesota has a trump card
teams
over Nebraska,
okay,
right? They can go to that Pharrell Payne, Joshua Ola-Joseph lineup that nuked Nebraska on the boards. Right. I'm not believing in Minnesota's ceiling long-term necessarily, but I don't know how Nebraska matches that physical play necessarily. And then Rutgers has looked a lot better since adding Jeremiah Williams, right? We saw they can be a pain in the butt, and I think that they're kind of back to that defensive identity they want under Steve Peichel.
Steve Peichel, baby.
Right?
Pounding nails, as Rothstein says.
Nails is right. Whereas going to Indiana, they're just meh.
Yeah.
Right. You saw them almost erase a 16-point deficit against Northwestern, but you saw them dig a 16-point hole.
That's what I mean, is like, I just feel like you mentioned, and I didn't mean to cut you off, like going to Indiana, meh. It's the going on the road. I just truly believe it's such a mental block right now for this team.
Oh, yeah.
That it literally is just, that's all it is. That's all it is that Nebraska just needs to win it.
Just find a way. Just get lucky enough. Be in a game enough to get lucky at the end if that's what it takes. It almost feels like road games for Husker men's basketball right now feel the same as one possession games for Husker football. When's the hammer dropping? When does the other shoe fall? You know, and that's unfortunate because I know Strick has talked about it where he said his objective for this team was take care of home first, right? That's a step in the right direction. Nebraska's done that. It's commendable. But there's no reason you can't
16-1,
15-1 right now. Yeah. But there's no reason for you to blow a 15-point halftime lead over Minnesota.
You're right.
There's no reason for you to let 2 separate 12-point leads slip away against, at that time, a bad Rutgers team. That's the mental block that you're getting at, that no matter how bad you are on the road, that's almost inexcusable given how good you look other times.
You're absolutely right about that. Let's go ahead. Let's get to break. When we return, we'll close this out. The college football playoff announced a new format. It's not anything surprising, but we want to let you guys know about it. And we want to inform you guys here on the happy hour. So we'll talk all about that on the CFP's new format. And we'll dive into more. Tomorrow, majority of the show, Husker basketball against the Indiana Hoosiers. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. 464-5685, the phone number to call and text, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 961. All those are available. Also, a Husker football note, as there was an announcement earlier this morning. Pretty cool stuff, as there's going to be a special guest coming to Lincoln. We'll talk all about it to wrap up the show and get you ready for On the Block. Coming up next, it's the happy hour sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Empower a life today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Change is only a conversation away when you choose to share your wisdom, time, and heart with a young mind. Together, we can craft a brighter future, one child at a time. Ignite a spark of hope and be someone's guiding light. Find out more about becoming a mentor by visiting teammates.org. Become a beacon of change by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
People always ask, what are Jake and Sip like when they're off the air? Well, the answer probably won't surprise you.
Hey, Jake, your Honda's looking a little dirty.
Says the guy whose license plate is barely visible.
I mean, do you even care about that thing anymore?
It gets a little uncomfortable. Now, that's when I jump in.
Hey, whoa. Mark, did you get a new car?
Nope, just took my car down to Nebraska Auto Detail. Joe and the staff made the outside and the inside look amazing. Maybe you guys need to go.
Okay, wise guy.
Settle down, Jake.
Book your appointment today at NebraskaAutoDetail.com.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep your clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex at West O Street. Online at doubleeagle.golf.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, mainly sunny and breezy with mild temperatures. We'll see a high around 68. Tonight, mainly clear with less wind, the low around 33. And tomorrow, mainly sunny skies return. So does the warmth with calm winds. We'll see a high around 67. I'm meteorologist Kyle Clucker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Looking for a job that feels like family? Join Lincoln Industries, where tradition meets innovation. They're a family-owned, privately held manufacturing company with a passion for excellence and a commitment to their community. They have openings on all shifts at both the main plant and air park facilities, offering flexibility to fit your schedule. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, there's a place for you there. At Lincoln Industries, they invest in their people's success, providing opportunities for growth and advancement. Apply now and become a part of something special at Lincoln Industries.
Hello? Hello?
Believe it or not, old phones are one of the most common pain points in offices today. Many of these phones are beyond repair because parts aren't available to fix outdated devices. Whether it's a traditional phone system or cloud-based VoIP technology, Hamilton Business Phones can help upgrade your connection. We make it easy to sync your office phone with your cell for seamless call handling, no matter where you work. If your current office phone can't do this, you deserve better. Hire your local experts. Hire Hamilton at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
On the block with Strick and Austin.
We're speaking to Husker baseball assistant Lance Harvell.
Seemed like there was a pretty heavy focus on the JUCO ranks this offseason. What went into the decision behind that approach?
There's something about junior college baseball. You know, if you've been through it, you know that life, what it's about. You number one, you got to have a passion to play baseball. You gotta grind. Those guys are tough. They're playing doubleheaders, every time out. So you know kind of what you're getting.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
How do people feel about getting Big Fitness Energy at Planet Fitness for $1 down and $10 a month? They feel as thrilled as a kid the first summer they're tall enough to ride the roller coaster! That's right. When you join Planet Fitness right now, you'll get access to tons of equipment and free fitness training in a clean and spacious club. Don't wait. Join the judgment-free zone today for that all-day energy. Download the free Planet Fitness app and join today for $1 down, $10 a month.
Deal ends soon.
See Home Club for details.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert.
I don't believe you people.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? Huh?
Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, back into the happy hour 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick and Austin with you. Joined us on the stream is Eric Strickland. Stricky, what's happening, man?
What's going on, Nicky Tricky? Tricky Nicky. I'm good, my friend. I'm good.
Are you still in Dallas?
Yeah, I'm still in Dallas right now.
How's the weather down there?
It's amazing today. And I heard it's getting really good again back in Omaha.
We got there, Stricky.
It's
Yeah.
a high of 67 degrees today.
Yeah, we're 80, so yeah.
Dang. Look at you. So anyway, one thing we didn't get to talk about on the Nebraska basketball segment was turnovers. You got to limit them tomorrow night against Indiana, right? Perfect example. Austin, you and I briefly brushed over the Iowa State Houston game last night. Number 6 Iowa State. But by the way, Iowa State is a top 10 program. They go on the road to number 2 Houston and ended up they lost by 8, 73-65. However, in that game, they out-rebounded Houston. The biggest issue was that they committed 16 turnovers and only forced less than 10. They only Houston only committed single-digit turnovers. That's a big part of games. And Nebraska, even though Nebraska's not 6th in the country, and even though they're not facing number 2 Houston tomorrow, same rules apply. And Stricky, I'm sure you can expand on this, man. It doesn't matter. Fundamentals are fundamentals, and you got to take care of the basketball.
All the way around. I mean, that's what I talk about. When you start playing against top programs, it doesn't matter who it is, even a regular program, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important for these differentials to be managed and taken care of. If the differentials get so skewed and out of whack in one direction or the other, it can literally cost you, because what does it do? It affects other areas of the game. For example, points in the paint, points off turnovers, which then puts you in a negative or a deficit in another differential category. And if you find yourself in the negative in multiple differentials, it's just the math is ultimately going to take over. It's very rare. That means everything's got to go right for you in some other category that to mask or to cover or to take over where you're at such a deficit. And that means you have to shoot extremely well, either from 3, or you went to the free throw line 20 times and you're 18 or 19 out of 20.
Yeah.
To their 8, so you got to figure out where to make up the difference. And this is why it's important to have that balance throughout the course of a game in your differential categories in order to put yourself in a position to win.
For Houston leading that game wire to wire, it was still incredibly competitive. I don't think their win probability dipped below 75%, but you always thought Iowa State was that 1 or 2 possessions away from saying, hey, they might be turning the corner. They might, actually make this a 1 possession game at some point. They didn't get over there. But to Strick's point about just how kind of lucky you have to get if you're not winning those differentials, the game I will always go back to is the Nebraska-Iowa game at the end of last season. Nebraska won at 81-77. They won that game by 4 points, even though they allowed 21 offensive rebounds and they turned the ball over 15 times. Nebraska shot 8 free throws to Iowa's 17. The difference, Nebraska made 14 of its 26 three-pointers, as Iowa went 12 of 37. Of course, Patrick McCaffrey had the announcers going a little crazy in the first half with his 5. But that was a lights-out shooting performance. Nebraska 59% from the floor, 54% from 3. Iowa took 74 shots in that game to Nebraska's 53, but they were nowhere near as efficient as they needed to be. So if you are operating at peak, elite level efficiency on offense, you can get lucky and survive 1 out of 100 times, but that's about all you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look up and down. So tonight, there's a big one, right? Number 1 UConn comes into Nebraska and faces off against the Creighton Blue Jays, 15th ranked Creighton Blue Jays. I think it's okay, and this has kind of been my point today. It's okay to want to watch tonight's game. It is going to be fun, because just as the college basketball fan in me, and I am not a fan of Creighton. I'm not before we even worry about texting that in, that's not the case. This is my point. From college basketball, from just a general fan point of view, tonight's going to be fun because you have obviously a number 1 team going into Creighton on the road environment that's packed, that's going to be jam-packed. But then also, guys, let's be real. Creighton's kind of fun to watch offensively. They can shoot the lights out. They're annoying. You can watch and say, gosh, I just hate how well they can play together, because guys like Stephen Ashworth are annoying for other teams. You hate watching how good Baylor Shireman shoots the ball, but it's hard to look away. It's okay to say and be just a general and casual college basketball fan tonight and say, you know what? I want to watch a top 15 matchup. I don't care who's playing, if it's Creighton or if it's Houston. I don't care.
Yeah, it's going to be rocking. It's definitely going to be
Mm-hmm.
rocking, and CHI is going to be on fire. I'm interested in the matchup and how Kalkbrenner holds up against with Klingon, because Klingon's been playing very good basketball as of late, and if he dominates that matchup, obviously, like you say, Creighton would have to have a super efficient night in order to overcome it, because they've been it's some of probably the most fun basketball that you're going to see, because both teams pass and they're efficient, and doggone UConn looks like like grown men, like they look like men among boys.
Let's also be honest. Two things here: the Big East is the best conference in basketball. That's just you're watching some of the best basketball. And maybe the Big 12 is a close.
It's 1A,
right
1B, depending on the night.
So there you go. Now, also, I'm still uncertain on Greg McDermott's future with Creighton. We also can't forget that there's an Ohio State opening, and that's a side of the conversation we haven't even talked about of whether or not they're going to hold on to the interim coach after they beat top 5 Purdue. But so there's a lot of things in play. Obviously, the matchups on the floor, but maybe some other things outside of it, big picture wise as well. Go ahead.
On the floor, watch for Trey Alexander. He's a mid-range merchant this year, shooting really good in the mid-range. UConn basically only allows mid-range jumpers. They're really good at defending the rim with Klingon. They're really good at taking threes away from the opponents that we know Creighton likes to do. Alexander is not nearly as efficient offensively as a Shireman or a Kalkbrenner. So I think if UConn can bait Trey Alexander into trying to take over the game from the mid-range, more often than not, that math works out in UConn's favor. And on the troll kind of side of things, of my anti-Creighton side,
I hope UConn rolls them.
Well, there's a fantastic Twitter account out there. It's a UConn fan that I only follow to see how he needles other Big East fan bases, and it's incredible. He hasn't posted it yet today, but I guarantee that if UConn wins, this Twitter account called No Escalators will post Ryan Kalkbrenner just big.
Dang.
That's his big thing, is that whenever there's a big man who has a bad game, he says this big man is just big. And he's posted like 4 or 5 times about how Ryan Kalkbrenner isn't good. He's just big. And it's my favorite recurring bit on Twitter.
That's incredible. So that's going to be a good one tonight. Fox Sports 1 for that. Once again, just a casual fan. You can be interested and tuned into that one tonight on Fox Sports 1. All right, what's coming up on the block today, gentlemen?
Going to be a good one. Apparently, I got Thunder Knock Collins and someone else on the text line riled up with the tweet I sent out. So we'll go over that in the first segment. Bill Belichick coming to Lincoln. Why is that? We'll mention the College Football Playoff Committee stuff. Getting into some college basketball as well, the Big 12 and Big East races, the up and down SEC, Nebraska ball rooting guide, essentially, through the end of the season, and reacting to the selection committee's the top 16 teams that they sent out over the weekend.
There you go. Okay, all that and more coming up on the block with Strick and Austin. Let's get out of here. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. See ya.
Looking for a job that feels like family? Join Lincoln Industries, where tradition meets innovation.